What is up, friends? Vaticate here with another Maplestory Classic World guide. Well, not a guide this time. I'm actually going to give my opinion on the changes and how warriors feel. I did actually boss as a white knight back in the day. I was level 120 something fighting zakum. I ended my classic Maplestory career as a 137 paladin. Uh, So I do have quite a bit of insight into how it feels versus back then. So I'm just gonna glance over all three warriors. No particular order, say how they feel, how they look, and what changes I'd like to see and what I expect. So first off, some general stuff that affects everyone. Weapon defense. A lot of people complaining about weapon defense. It actually works quite differently now than it did back in the day. Back in the day, you had a flat damage reduction. Same with enemies, they just flat ignored X amount of damage from every hit. This is no longer the case either way. You have a percentage damage reduction that is based on how much armor you have and your character's level. You notice this stump is not hitting me for one. Any level like 20 or higher, probably like 30 or higher warrior would get hit by one by this stump back in the day. So what does this mean really? It means in early jobs you will take more damage. In later jobs you will take way less. As long as you keep your armor somewhat relevant. Bear in mind, I'm wearing level 70 armor that's clean. It doesn't have any scrolls on it. And I only take like 200 damage from Banes, which are level 90. Level 100 armor, we can expect that to go down to like 150 touch damage. Naked, they hit around 900. So yeah, it's pretty big amount. It's just that percentages are worth less the lower the number. I do prefer this version. Back in the old days, weapon defense was effectively worthless past level 60 or so. Enemy damage outscaled uh, weapon defense too fast for you to really face tank stuff, even for a warrior. That's where Power Guard came in for fighters and Crusaders. That is how we were able to face tank. So it's quite easily segues into the second thing I wanted to mention. We now have Rush in second job for all three warriors. Power Guard and Hyper Body are now third job. I'm okay with this. I would prefer to have the defense from Power Guard early on, and we'll definitely miss Hyper Body for Spearman in second job, especially for party quests. But Rush is just too good to pass up. The biggest weakness of warriors is our mobility and our range. This allows us to group up four enemies for our little slash blast or charge blow. It's very fluid, it only has a 1 second cooldown. Does cost a decent bit of MP, but it's quite fun. It's nice. It's not overpowered, but it does bridge the gap a little and make trading more fun. And now you probably think, oh, she's one-shotting things with well, way to go, Vaticate. You misgendered yourself. Anyway, it does look like it's kind of powerful one-shotting these, but Rush is very weak. Damage is irrelevant on it. It deals 80% damage. These are fire weak enemies that I'm using it on. So yeah. You just use it to group things up and close the distance. It's especially nice if you're using one-handed weapons, because it always puts you in melee range. And one-handed weapons have really notoriously bad hitboxes. Power Guard in third job still does the same thing it did in second job, reduce all damage by 40% and reflect that back. One interesting new change, if you're using a shield and you block the hit, which is a new mechanic, by the way. It was normally tied to fourth job, and it was kind of a weird thing. Shields now have a flat rate to block all physical damage taken, making you invulnerable and triggering your invincibility frames. If this triggers with Power Guard active, you fully reflect what the unmitigated hit from the enemy would have been, which is kind of fun. That's another thing with shields as well. The block rate scales with the weapon defense on the shield, and scrolls for shield weapon defense affect this. You can totally get, like, right now I think the highest possible is like a 35% chance, but in theory the highest possible is 50%. The highest the game will let you have is a 50% chance to just not take damage. You need 500 weapon defense for that, though. For reference, I don't actually have the shield on me. Oh well. Let's talk about final attack next. I did have a video asking about the various final attacks. I'll probably throw just a final attack overview. I like this version of final attack. For those that did not experience it back in the day, final attack gave every first job move for warriors, second job as well for archers. There were no second job attacks for warrior, but it gave them a 60% chance to trigger another attack. There were two issues with it, though. One, the second hit, if it was triggered by Slash Blast, triggered I call it a single target hit divided amongst the enemies in range, up to 6. This was notorious for doing like 70 damage at level 80. Like, the way it works is you just got massively cut by each enemy hit. So if you only hit 2 enemies with it, it was fine. It was basically another Slash Blast hit. If you hit 6 enemies, it was pretty worthless. It would never reduce the hits to kill. It would save you a little bit of MP. It was bad. But the big thing was you could not turn it off. You wanted it for the single target damage and saving of MP, but you could not turn it off. So it actually slowed down grinding in third job, because you still had to use Slash Blast and Power Strike. The new version is a toggle. For Page and Spearman, final attack only hits a single target. It can be triggered by third job moves, but again, it is a toggle. You will not use it as a Spearman in third job, because even though it heals you a little bit for Spearman, you really want to spam Crusher, not have final attack interrupt it. For Fighter, final attack actually works a bit different. It actually is a 3-hit cleave, and it does actually include the axe bleed chance. Fighter will actually want to use it in AoE, but turn it off for single target. And finally, White Knight. White Knight is 270% to one target. Outside of really niche cases like zakum arms, you're not going to use it when you're AoEing stuff. You will use it when single target bossing, though, because it's actually stronger than Power Strike. Other than that, final attack feels fine. It's exactly the same animation as it used to be, but it plays out way faster. Very nice. Less downtime. It's kind of fun. Nothing really new about it. Let's talk about third job skills now. I was a paladin main. I was a white knight main back in the day. White knight feels great. They rebalanced our charges to all be plus 25% and added a nice little extra bonus effect to each of them. Previously, fire charge was 140% extra damage, ice charge was the weakest at 115, and lightning charge was 120. Only ice charge had an additional effect. It froze things, which was effectively a stun. Other than that, you mostly use fire charge, but would switch lightning charge at Spirit Vikings and Gigantic Spirit Vikings was the in-game leveling route for White Knight. But you could honestly go from 70 to 150 with just fire charge if you really wanted to, just because of how many enemies in Maplestory are fire weak. Charge blow change is huge. They gave us advanced charge blow, level 70. This was a 4th job move. Now it still does the same damage it did back in the day, I think, or slightly more, slightly less. It's not really important. The big thing is the chance to not consume charge. Charge blow back in the day always consumed your charge. This was the last ability you put points into. It was completely worthless because it took so long to cast your elemental charge. You would never use this. Now, when it's maxed, it has a 100% chance to maintain charge state. It completely replaces Slash Blast. Slash Blast is 130%. Charge Blow is 210%. It does have slightly more MP cost, but who cares? One thing about this too is it actually has a larger range. Slash Blast and Slash Blast and Charge Blow both bloom outward after the initial hit. Charge Blow blooms about twice as far. Now for Crusader, almost nothing has changed. They are basically white knights without the elemental weaknesses. And they do not have currently the finisher bullshit scaling to compensate for it. But this is definitely a bug. Right now, using Coma or Panic functions as if you cast it with 1 orb, regardless of how many orbs you have. It should be doing 5 times the damage that it is doing right now. This is definitely a bug. The tooltip for the skill says it uses per orb, and the actual damage formula in the game's files uses a number of orbs. So this is definitely some kind of oversight. When this is fixed, a Crusader... Oh, dang it. When this is fixed, the Crusader will deal a little bit more single target damage than White Knight, a little bit less AoE. If you take bug fixed Coma into account, you can actually do slightly more in AoE without elemental weaknesses. But on elemental weaknesses, White Knight is king. Can't beat him. Dragon Knight is functionally identical to what it was back in the day. You are still a Dragon Crusher spamming fiend. The only real difference is you're no longer penalized based on weapon. You can use Crusher slash Buster with a polearm. You can use uh what's it called? Dragon Wrath. I don't even remember what the new version's called, but it was Dragon Wrath back in the day, and that's what I'm gonna call it. Both of these use a special formula that is irrelevant to slash and stab multipliers. You will be fine. I recommend using Spear. Gives crit rate. Uh, what's fun about Dragon Knight is they reach their effective peak at level 87. You've maxed almost everything of importance at level 87. You have max Dragon Blood and max Piercing Crusher. This is a good thing and a bad thing because it means you don't really gain that rapid damage increase as you level. You don't gain too many useful skills. You still get Dragon Roar, you still get Hyper Body, but yeah, all your power is baked into those first few levels. For reference, Hermit, notoriously bad third job moves, caps out at 97. Crusaders cap out at 107. White Knight at 107. But that also front loads it. Leveling a third job is incredibly slow. You will spend multiple days of grinding, even weeks, to get one level. So having all of your main abilities front loaded like that is actually quite nice. Dragon Knight's damage is pretty solid. I do feel like they're going to change the damage output of Piercing Crusher. It's probably going to hit slightly harder. It has a really weird leveling mechanic and scaling where people are leaving Piercing Crusher at level 22, sacrificing one target hit to slightly increase its damage to one target. I don't think this will stay in the game. I think they're probably going to bump it up to 140% times 3, 145% times 3. That is about where it should be. Okay. I was almost done recording anyway, so I'm just going to finish off with saying Dragon Knight is the king of 3-target cleave. They're amazing bossers. They have hyper body, still gonna be party kings. Yeah, have fun.